Now, as if being in New Hope on Jesus' birthday wasn't Christmas present enough, you have these young people sing and make me cry. Oh my God. Merry Christmas. Thank you for my Christmas gift. Will you pray with me, please? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Amen. Merry Christmas, New Hope. Oh. Last night I was preaching at a Presbyterian church during the Christmas Eve service, and I was just saying how happy I was going to be because not only the last Sunday of the year is Jesus' birthday, but I get to be in church on Jesus' birthday. And the clerk said to me, Reverend Allen, let me tell you something. I got 4 phone calls this week asking me, since Sunday is a holiday, the church is closed, right? Verses 6, 7, and 8, and 12 and 13. I feel stuck between the comfortable faith of my parents and the life I feel God has called me to live. What an indictment. When our scriptures today are specifically pointing up that we have a role to play in developing the faith of young people as well as reaching out to the world. Isaiah 52:7 says, "How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messenger who announces peace, who brings good news, who announces salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns." Well, how about the streets of Jamaica, New Hope? Where are the messengers on the streets of Jamaica who are announcing peace and bringing good news and announcing salvation, who's saying, your God reigns? That's our job. That's our job. When there's so much anger and fear and hate and violence, we need to show the world that there is real, genuine hope in the midst of all that pain. They don't need, the nice little platitudes that you find in the Christian bookshops, turn your scars into stars. I mean, that's nice. But you know what? 3 families in my area in Brooklyn, for somebody to say that to them, even a year after the tragedies that they have experienced at this time, is an emotional hurt. You probably heard on the news, in my neighborhood, a young man disappeared on Halloween. And we've been praying, please let him be all right, let him be all right. And we learned this week that he's dead. How do you say to a family whose son has been murdered, turn your scars into stars? That is so insensitive. But you see, that makes someone who is uncomfortable with pain, who is uncomfortable with the harsh realities of life, that makes it easier for them to get through. But you know what? We weren't allowed to become children of God, to be comfortable. We have been given the ability and the responsibility to say, even in the worst of times, there's still hope. That you don't have to give up, that you don't have to be alone. In my husband's school, a week and a half ago, one of his students was stabbed in the school by an emotionally disturbed young man who got angry because of something that happened between them on the basketball court. Here now are 2 more families. At this time where everybody's supposed to be saying to you, smile, be joyous. We don't even know if this young man's going to live. And the other young man, mostly disturbed, turned himself in. He knew he had done something wrong. But our school system has been allowed to make it unsafe for them. If you know that someone is emotionally disturbed, what kind of resource are you helping that child to get? Do you know it's now been almost 2 weeks since that incident, and there has been no grief counselors sent to my husband's school? Would that have happened if this had happened in Levittown? No. Okay. But here, I'm a part of a Christian community. There's a church right across the street from my husband's school. Have they reached out to that campus? Have they reached out to those children, to those teachers? My husband said he had an incident with one of his teachers, and the guy he couldn't understand why he was angry. But my husband has counseling experience. He said, that's why you're angry. Because our school has been violated, and nobody's helping us. Are we being bearers of peace and good news and salvation in the midst of all these horrific things? You probably also heard on the news, this has not been a good year for Brooklyn, let me tell you. A woman was set on fire. One of my Presbyterian brothers, his church members live in that building. And the Sunday after that incident, they went as a congregation and a pastor with the members who lived there, and didn't just pray with the members of the church who lived there, but they offered comfort to everybody in the building. There, the members and pastor of Duryea said, we will be messengers of good news and salvation during this horrible time. We will not give you platitudes. We will stand with you in this time of pain. That's what this Isaiah is saying to us this morning on Jesus' birthday. How beautiful are the feet upon the mountains of the messengers who bring the good news, the gospel of peace and salvation. Are our activities enabling and teaching us to be those kind of messengers?